A man is sentenced to life inside one of the most brutal prisons ever built, where escape is considered impossible, and even surviving a single year is a miracle. Every prisoner knows that one mistake could mean starvation, torture, or death. Yet, this man refuses to accept his fate. Instead of giving up, he begins planning an escape that everyone believes is pure madness. What follows is a relentless battle against ruthless guards, deadly inmates, and impossible odds in a prison designed to destroy hope itself. The story begins in 1931, where a skilled safecracker named Henri Charrier, better known as Papillon, sneaks into a wealthy mansion and cracks open a heavily secured safe. Within seconds, he empties it of expensive diamonds before escaping through the window without leaving a trace. Papillon works for one of Paris's most dangerous crime bosses. He delivers the stolen diamonds and gets paid immediately. Before letting him leave, the boss points to a man who has been beaten nearly to death, warning everyone that anyone who steals from him ends up the same way. "You sure got some balls on you. You try to hustle me, and I'll cut them off." Papillon keeps quiet, collects his money, and walks away. He then meets his girlfriend Nanette and surprises her with a beautiful necklace he secretly kept from the robbery. The two spend the evening together talking about their future. Nanette dreams of leaving the city behind and starting a peaceful life in the countryside, but Papillon has no interest in farming. He believes he was born to outsmart rich people, not milk cows. Unknown to them, a man connected to the mafia watches them from a distance. The next morning, everything changes. Police officers suddenly storm Papillon's apartment and arrest him for murdering a local pimp. "You're under arrest for the murder of Roland Legrand, who was murdered last night. A witness identified you." Papillon instantly realizes he's being framed because the victim is the same man his mafia boss brutally attacked the previous night. He insists he's innocent and tells the officers he spent the entire night with Nanette, but nobody listens. After the trial, Papillon is sentenced to life imprisonment. When Nanette visits him, she promises to testify and fight for his freedom, but Papillon knows the justice system is completely corrupt. Powerful people have already decided his fate. "Nanette, you need to forget about me." He sadly tells her to forget about him and build a new life because he's now focused on only one thing: escaping. Nearby, another inmate named Juliet overhears the conversation and tells Papillon that escaping from prison isn't impossible, but it requires a lot of money. He points toward a nervous-looking prisoner named Louis Degas, a famous counterfeiter who made millions printing fake bonds. According to Juliet, Degas still has access to a fortune, making him the richest man among the prisoners. Soon afterward, all the inmates are loaded onto a prison ship, bound for the infamous penal colony of French Guiana, a place where almost nobody ever returns alive. During the journey, Papillon approaches Degas and offers him protection in exchange for money to finance his escape. Degas laughs and refuses, believing the guards will keep him safe until his wife wins his appeal. That confidence disappears before sunrise. During the night, a prisoner is brutally murdered after other inmates cut open his body searching for hidden money. The guards don't even bother stopping them. Terrified, Degas finally understands that no one is safe aboard the ship. The following morning, he quickly finds Papillon and accepts the deal. If Papillon keeps him alive, he'll provide all the money needed for an escape. Papillon agrees, but makes one thing clear: he's escaping with or without Degas. Neither of them realizes this deal is about to become the beginning of one of the greatest prison escape stories ever told. The prison ship finally arrives at the brutal penal colony of French Guiana, where hundreds of dangerous inmates are forced off the boat and lined up before the prison warden. The warden wastes no time crushing their hopes. He tells them everyone arrives thinking about escape, but nobody survives it. Even if they somehow get past the guards, the surrounding jungle is filled with deadly animals, and beyond that lies an ocean crawling with sharks. He then explains the punishment for anyone foolish enough to try. The first escape attempt earns 2 years in solitary confinement. The second brings 5 years in solitary, and anyone who keeps trying eventually ends up on the infamous Devil's Island, where prisoners slowly lose their minds until they die. As prison life begins, Papillon immediately starts making connections. Instead of wasting time, he bribes the inmate responsible for assigning jobs, asking to have both himself and Degas transferred to the prison infirmary, believing it would be the easiest place to escape from. Degas even requests a notebook so he can continue drawing while they're there. The man happily accepts their money. Unfortunately, things don't go according to plan. Just before the assignment is finalized, the deputy warden recognizes Dega. Years earlier, his own son-in-law was arrested for using counterfeit bonds printed by Dega. Still furious, the deputy cancels the transfer and sends both men to work in the brutal rock quarry instead. Their escape plan suffers its first setback. While working under the scorching sun, Dega quietly admits something embarrassing. The money he hid inside his body has accidentally fallen out. Papillon immediately stops pushing the heavy cart and secretly retrieves the cash before any guard notices. "Push harder than that. Come on, I have diarrhea. I lost the money. What the hell are you doing? I work for the rest of us. None of your business. Get up, get up. Come on." Pick him up. Put him in the car. Dega breathes a sigh of relief, realizing once again that without Papillon, he'd already be dead. During another work break, Papillon meets an experienced sailor named Cellier, who claims he still has friends outside the prison. According to him, if someone can successfully escape the prison grounds, he can arrange for a boat to pick them up along the coast. This is exactly the opportunity Papillon has been looking for. Not long afterward, Papillon also speaks with a local boat owner who regularly delivers women to entertain the prison guards. He offers the man money for a boat. The man agrees, but demands 5,000 up front. Papillon knows the price is outrageous, but he has no choice. Without a boat, escape is impossible. As the days pass, more prisoners begin targeting Dega for his hidden fortune. One afternoon, several inmates corner him while the guards pretend not to notice. Before they can stab him, Papillon throws himself into another violent fight. Punches fly in every direction. Papillon fights like a man with nothing to lose, even fighting one attacker's ear clean off before the others finally retreat. Afterward, Papillon angrily confronts Dega. He's risking his own life every single day, protecting someone who can barely defend himself. Dega quietly reminds him that this was the agreement. Papillon storms away, clearly frustrated. Later that night, Dega approaches Papillon with a surprising request. He no longer wants to wait for his appeal. After seeing how prisoners die every day, he has lost faith that he'll survive long enough to be released legally. He now wants to escape together. Papillon immediately rejects the idea. He tells Dega the truth. Out there, survival depends on strength, speed, and endurance. Dega has none of those qualities. Taking him along would only slow him down. Before Dega can respond, every prisoner is suddenly ordered into the yard. Joylet, the inmate who injured himself earlier to escape through the infirmary, has been caught. His escape failed. Worse still, he killed a prison guard during the attempt. As punishment, he's publicly executed in front of everyone. A man stabbed 2 guards, whom died this morning, so he could go on a run through the jungle. Watch me go to hell. You, pick another inmate. You carry the body. No one escapes this prison alive. Afterward, Papillon and Dega are ordered to carry Joylet's headless body into the jungle for burial. The sight is too much for Dega. He freezes in terror, unable to move. Instead of showing mercy, one of the guards begins whipping him repeatedly across the back. Papillon watches for only a few seconds before finally snapping. He grabs a nearby rock and smashes it across the guard's head, knocking him unconscious. Without wasting another second, Papillon makes a desperate run for freedom. Bullets fly past him as guards chase him through the jungle, but somehow he manages to escape, believing he's finally free. Papillon reaches the boat owner's house later that night. Relieved, he asked for the boat they agreed upon. Instead, the man starts laughing. Armed guards suddenly emerge from every direction. The boat owner admits he never planned to help him. Every escaped prisoner comes to him eventually, and the warden always pays twice as much for turning them in. Papillon has walked straight into a trap. He's dragged back to prison in chains. The warden greets him with a cold smile before announcing his punishment. For attempting his first escape, Papillon will spend the next 2 years in solitary confinement, completely isolated from the outside world. As the heavy prison door slams shut behind him, Papillon realizes his real battle has only just begun. Life inside solitary confinement quickly becomes a nightmare. Papillon is locked inside a tiny stone cell where he's forbidden to speak, forbidden to leave, and barely given enough food to survive. Every day feels exactly the same, and the prison's real goal isn't to kill him. It is to slowly destroy his mind. Despite the torture, Papillon refuses to give up hope. One morning he notices something unusual floating inside his bowl of water. It's a coconut. Hidden inside is a small note promising that another one will arrive tomorrow. Papillon instantly realizes who sent it. Only Dega would risk helping him. The coconuts become his only source of proper food, giving him just enough strength to keep going. Motivated by his friend's loyalty, Papillon begins exercising inside the tiny cell every single day, determined not to let prison break him. Unfortunately, their secret doesn't last forever. One afternoon, a guard discovers the coconut hidden in Papillon's cell and immediately reports it to the warden. The furious warden visits Papillon personally and demands to know who has been helping him. Papillon refuses to answer. Enraged, the warden cuts his food ration in half. Weeks turn into months. Papillon's body grows thinner every day. His ribs become visible. His face sinks inward, and even standing becomes difficult. Still, he never betrays Degas. Several more months pass before the warden returns with another offer. This time, he places a plate of fresh food directly in front of Papillon. All he has to do is reveal the name of the person supplying the coconuts. Papillon stares at the meal for a few seconds before calmly picking it up and dumping it onto the floor. The warden completely loses his temper. As punishment, he orders Papillon to spend the rest of his sentence in total darkness. The tiny window is sealed shut, leaving Papillon trapped in complete blackness. Days blend into weeks. Weeks become months. With nobody to talk to and nothing to see, Papillon slowly begins losing his grip on reality. He starts seeing strange visions inside the darkness. Sometimes he imagines Degas standing in front of him. Other times he sees himself cracking open giant safes, just like the old days in Paris. The hallucinations become so real that he can no longer tell where memory ends and madness begins. This is a good escape. Finally, 2 long years come to an end. The guards enter the cell and discover Papillon lying unconscious on the floor. Believing the isolation has completely broken him, they transfer him back to the prison infirmary. The moment Degas sees him again, he's horrified. Papillon is barely recognizable. His once muscular body has been reduced to skin and bones. Degas blames himself, believing his friends suffered all this because of him. He apologizes for everything and finally admits Papillon was right all along. His wife never appealed his sentence. Instead, she abandoned him, married someone else, and disappeared with all of his money. Papillon simply smiles and insults her, proving he hasn't gone insane after all. Degas is overjoyed. His friend only pretended to be mentally broken, so the guards would keep him inside the infirmary instead of sending him back to hard labor. Now reunited, the two immediately begin planning another escape. Degas reveals that an important group of politicians will soon visit the prison. To impress them, the warden plans to hold an outdoor movie night for the guests. With everyone's attention focused on the event, security around the prison will be weaker than ever. Papillon agrees that it's the perfect opportunity, but this time, they'll need more help. They recruit Celier, the experienced sailor who still has outside contacts, and another inmate named Machette, a quiet prisoner constantly abused by one of the guards. Together, the 4 men carefully prepare every detail. Over the following days, Papillon secretly saves the sleeping medicine he's given in the infirmary. Instead of swallowing it, he hides every tablet. Eventually, he hands the entire collection to Degas. On movie night, Degas will secretly mix the drugs into the guards' drinks. Meanwhile, Maitrette agrees to make the biggest sacrifice. Knowing one particular guard constantly harasses him, Maitrette volunteers to lure the man into the bathroom and keep him distracted long enough for Papillon and Celier to attack. The night of the escape finally arrives. Everything begins exactly as planned. Degas calmly serves drinks to the guards while secretly mixing the powerful sedatives into every glass. At the same time, Maitrette reluctantly leads the abusive guard into the bathroom. The moment the guard lets his guard down, Papillon and Celier burst inside. Using wooden bedposts as clubs, they knock him unconscious before he can make a sound. Outside, the remaining guards slowly begin collapsing one after another as the sleeping drugs take effect. For the first time since arriving at the prison, freedom feels closer than ever. But just as the 4 men prepare to slip away unnoticed, dark clouds gather overhead. A heavy rainstorm suddenly crashes down, forcing all the politicians and guards to abandon the movie and rush indoors. Within seconds, their perfectly planned escape begins falling apart. The sudden rain throws the entire prison into chaos. The movie is canceled, politicians rush inside, and dozens of guards begin moving around the compound. For a moment, it looks like the escape is over. Celier immediately tells Papillon they should leave without Degas before more guards arrive, but Papillon refuses. He didn't survive 2 years in solitary just to abandon his friend now. Moments later, Degas finally appears with the prison keys. Since the heavy rain has knocked out the electricity, the entire prison is covered in darkness. Using the blackout to their advantage, the 4 prisoners quietly unlock the gates and begin sneaking toward the outer wall. Everything seems to be going perfectly. After avoiding several patrols, they reach the prison watchtower, the final obstacle standing between them and freedom. Unfortunately, the only way down is a dangerous jump from the tower. Papillon jumps first. He lands safely. Celier follows. Then Matarat. Both survive the fall without serious injuries. Finally, it's Degas' turn. Still nervous, he hesitates for just a second. At the worst possible moment, the power suddenly comes back on, flooding the area with light. Startled, Degas loses his balance and lands badly, breaking his ankle. He screams in pain. The guards haven't spotted them yet, but now Degas can't walk. Celier immediately loses his patience. He tells Papillon to leave Degas behind before everyone gets caught. Papillon refuses without even thinking. Instead, he and Matarate lift Degas onto their shoulders and continue running together. After an exhausting journey through the jungle, they finally reach the coastline where Celier's contact is waiting with a small wooden boat. Papillon quickly hands over the money, and the 4 fugitives climb aboard. For the first time in years, they're finally free. The prison slowly disappears behind them as the boat drifts farther into the ocean. But their celebration doesn't last long. Only a few hours later, water begins pouring into the boat. It turns out the old boat is full of holes. Instead of resting, the men spend every second scooping water back into the sea just to stay afloat. Then, things get even worse. A massive storm begins forming on the horizon. Realizing the tiny boat may not survive, Celier comes to a horrifying conclusion. The boat is carrying too much weight. If all 4 men stay on board, everyone will drown. Someone has to go. Without warning, Celier pulls out a knife. He tells Papillon that Degas is injured, useless, and slowing everyone down. If they throw Degas overboard, the rest of them might survive. Papillon refuses. A brutal fight breaks out on the rocking boat. The storm grows stronger as huge waves crash against them. Celier's size gives him the advantage, and he eventually pins Papillon to the deck. Just as he's about to stab him, Degas grabs a knife from the floor and plunges it into Celier's back. Celier collapses. The 3 surviving men drag his body to the edge of the boat and throw it into the sea. A few moments later, they pull Maturet back on board, barely saving his life. But nature isn't finished with them yet. The storm finally reaches them in full force. Towering waves smash against the tiny boat from every direction. Celier's size gives him the advantage, and he eventually pins Papillon to the deck. Just as he's about to stab him, Degas grabs a knife from the floor and plunges it into Celier's back. Celier collapses. The 3 surviving men drag his body to the edge of the boat and throw it into the sea. A few moments later, they pull Maturet back on board, barely saving his life. But nature isn't finished with them yet. The storm finally reaches them in full force. Towering waves smash against the tiny boat from every direction. Everything goes black. When Papillon finally wakes up, he's lying inside a small hut. Confused, he steps outside and discovers they're no longer at sea. A nearby religious community has rescued them after finding their boat drifting along the coast of Colombia. A kind nun welcomes Papillon and tells him they're safe. She explains that she already knows they escaped from prison, but claims none of that matters as long as they repent and live peacefully. For the first time in years, Papillon experiences something that almost feels like freedom. Later, he finds Degas resting comfortably nearby and tells him they should leave immediately before the authorities discover where they are. To Papillon's surprise, Degas refuses. After everything they've survived, he says he's tired of running. He wants to stay in Colombia and live a quiet life instead. Papillon understands, but decides to continue alone. As he quietly walks toward a nearby boat, he suddenly freezes. A police vehicle pulls into the village. His heart sinks. The peaceful sanctuary has betrayed them. Realizing Degas is still behind, Papillon races back to warn him. But before the 2 friends can escape, armed officers surround the village. Maturet makes one final desperate run for freedom, only to be shot dead before making it very far. Papillon and Degas have no choice but to surrender. Captured once again, they're dragged back into chains. For Papillon, The punishment this time will be far worse than before. For attempting a second escape, Papillon receives an even harsher punishment. Instead of 2 years, he's sentenced to 5 years in solitary confinement. The isolation is far more brutal than before. 5 years without freedom. 5 years without human contact. 5 years trapped inside a tiny stone cell. By the time his sentence finally ends, Papillon is barely recognizable. His body is weak, his hair is completely gray, and every step he takes looks painful. Even the prison warden is shocked. He admits that no prisoner has ever survived 5 years in solitary confinement before. Curious, the warden asks Papillon one simple question. What kept you alive? Papillon doesn't say a single word. Soon afterward, he's transferred to the infamous Devil's Island, the prison every inmate fears the most. Surrounded by towering cliffs and violent ocean currents, the island is considered impossible to escape. Most prisoners who arrive there eventually lose their minds. As Papillon slowly walks through the prison yard, he notices a familiar face. It's Degas. The two old friends embrace after years apart. Degas explains that after their failed escape from Colombia, he was sent to Devil's Island years earlier and has been surviving there ever since. Unlike the brutal labor camps, life on Devil's Island is strangely quiet. The prisoners aren't forced to work. Instead, they're left to slowly waste away until death. Degas gives Papillon food, plays to sleep, and helps him recover his strength over the following weeks. One afternoon, Papillon walks to the edge of the island and studies the crashing waves below. Most prisoners see certain death. Papillon sees another opportunity. That night, he wakes Degas and reveals his newest escape plan. He believes the powerful ocean currents surrounding Devil's Island don't pull objects toward the island. They push them away. If they can build a raft strong enough to survive the fall from the cliffs, the waves might carry them all the way to the mainland. For the next several weeks, the two friends secretly collect hundreds of coconuts. One by one, they tie them together with rope until they finally create a floating raft large enough to support one person. The day of the escape finally arrives. Papillon excitedly prepares the raft, while Degas quietly watches him. Then Degas makes a heartbreaking confession. He's not going. After everything they've survived, he's simply too old and too tired to start over again. Devil's Island has become the only home he has left. Papillon tries to convince him, but Degas has already made peace with his decision. Realizing he can't force his friend, Papillon hugs him tightly. The two men say goodbye, fully aware they'll probably never see each other again. With tears in his eyes, Degas watches as Papillon drags the raft toward the edge of the massive cliff. Below them, enormous waves crash against the rocks. One mistake means certain death. Papillon doesn't hesitate. He throws the coconut raft into the sea, takes one final look at his friend, then leaps off the cliff. For several terrifying seconds, he disappears beneath the crashing waves. Degas waits anxiously from above. Finally, Papillon surfaces alive. The raft catches him just as the powerful ocean current begins pulling him farther and farther away from the island. For the first time in decades, he's truly free. Years later, Papillon successfully builds a new life in South America, living under a new identity while remaining a wanted man in France. Decades pass before he finally returns home. In 1969, an elderly Papillon walks into a publishing office carrying a handwritten manuscript along with Degas' old drawings. Inside those pages is the incredible story of everything he endured, his wrongful conviction, the horrors of French Guiana, years spent in solitary confinement, his friendship with Degas, and his relentless fight for freedom. Those memoirs would later become one of the most famous prison escape stories ever written, and that's how a man the world believed would die behind bars proved that no prison could ever imprison him.